Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking, Barry, and Franky here, I guess, to wish you a very happy July 22nd. What's the big deal with July 22nd? Well, of course, as every One Piece fan already knows, today is One Piece Day. That's right. Today marks the 23rd anniversary of the single greatest story ever told. Granted, in Japan, I think they're like 14 hours ahead of me here in the States, so that means today is the 23rd over there, so yesterday would have been One Piece Day, but whatever. My computer says it's One Piece Day, it's One Piece Day. And we all know time zones don't exist in the One Piece world. Do they? That's actually something I should probably know. Do time zones exist? Alright, next video is gonna be, do time zones exist in the One Piece world? Yes, absolutely. Also, by the way, before I forget, I wanted to wish a happy birthday to my grandfather, because today is his birthday, July 22nd, and he is actually 98 years old. That's right. He was born in 1922, and he fought in the Second World War, so happy birthday, Pappy. Crazy days. Alright, so today, though, we're gonna be tackling a theory I see quite a bit, honestly, in the comment sections of my videos. Whenever I bring up the ancient weapons in a video, specifically Pluton, I get quite a few of these comments. Last review, chapter 985, we had Kaido himself, the big man, come out and name drop the ancient weapons. Not something that happens very often in One Piece. He's like, I'm gonna get the ancient weapons, and we're gonna get the One Piece, and we're gonna take over everything, you know? So everyone's really, losing their crap over that. So I'm seeing a lot more of these comments, and I felt like this would probably be the good time to mention it, and it also involves my favorite Straw Hat, Franky, so let's just go into it. The general theory is the Thousand Sunny, the ship of the Straw Hat Pirates with a mighty lion or sunflower, or no, it's a sunflower, mighty sunflower figurehead, was in fact Pluton, the ancient weapon Pluton, the island-destroying battleship this entire time. It's the basic theory that I hear. Oh, by the way, yeah, I also got the plans for Pluton, because using Barry's interdimensional powers, I could just reach in and grab anything out of One Piece. So, Oh, this can't be right. This is like, according to this, Pluton is apparently some kind of massage exercise machine or something. Okay, I have no idea what Pluton is, so these might be accurate blueprints for all I know. I'll just keep these off the side. Maybe that is Pluton this whole time. But no, okay. Pluton. There's not a lot of stuff we know about it other than the fact that it's apparently a giant battleship that, as Crocodile so eloquently put it, can obliterate an island in a single shot. And that it was apparently built during the Void Century in Water 7. We know it was built in Water 7, so I'm assuming it happened during the Void Century, and it got a lot of use back then because the terror of it still lives on to this day. The people in One Piece, even though it's just a legend or a myth in some people's eyes, still know the terror of Pluton and what kind of destruction it could bring, okay? So it was built in Water 7, got its use during the Void Century, and then at some point was just hidden away somewhere. Don't know where it is, except for Robin. She does, because she actually read the poneglyph at Alabasta, so Robin knows the location of Pluton, right? But beyond that, we don't really know where it's at. And the whole reason that the CP9 went undercover at Water 7 was not to find the location of Pluton, the one that already exists. They were trying to get their hands on the blueprints to the actual ship, because the whole idea was, okay, the shipwrights hundreds of years ago built Pluton at Water 7, but they had a thought. They were like, whoa, wait a second, hold on. What happens if someone gets their hands on this world-destroying battleship that can just, conquer the entire planet, that's nigh indestructible? What happens if someone, evil gets their hands on that thing? We need to have a contingency in place. We have to have a plan B. So they left the blueprints to the head shipwright, like the most trustworthy shipwright, so that if that day ever did come where the ancient weapon was found and revived by someone evil, they could just bust out the blueprints, make another crazy fit massage machine, and then they would be able to fight back against the original. But the idea is, alright, we need some kind of massive world-destroying weapon to defeat the massive world-destroying weapon. That's the only way you could take it out. So these blueprints were passed down through the shipwrights, and then eventually they got to Tom, who is Iceberg and, Cutty Flam, or Franky's master. Before Tom died, he passed them on to Iceberg, and then Iceberg, I think, started to realize the world government's gonna start looking for these damn things, and they're gonna know that I have them, because I'm the mayor of Water 7, and I'm kind of like the most liked shipwright in the entire, land, so they're probably gonna go after me. And so, after Iceberg realized Franky was still alive, he figured, oh, okay, this is perfect, because everybody thinks Cutty Flam is dead. So, Franky, they don't know you're him, so I'm gonna lend you give you these Pluton blueprints, you hide these somewhere, and you'll be the last person they'll think to look for, because you're not even a carpenter. You're not even really a member of Water 7. You're like a thug that like is a ship dismantler, okay? You're gonna be like the last place they're gonna look for these really valuable blueprints for this ancient weapon. So Iceberg hands them off to Franky. However, this happened after CP9 already infiltrated Water 7. So it was a very, very brief meeting, but Khalifa remembered that one meeting where Franky showed up at Galila, and they managed to put the pieces together, and they went after Franky to try to get the blueprints back. However, they did not, because Franky, being a mighty super cyborg, managed to hide the blueprints somewhere on his body, maybe behind his fridge. There was a secret door behind the fridge, and that's where he kept the blueprints this whole time, inside of his body. So he knew exactly how dangerous these things were, and they were the legacy of his master, Tom. And so we see him bust out the blueprints at the Tower of Law. He kind of shows all the members of CP9. He shows Spondum there, and he even kind of gives a glimpse. He's like, hey, Lucci, Kaku, you guys know what these things are. You know they're real. And they're looking at him, and they're like, oh my god, they're actually real. And then Franky's just like, you know what? I'm gonna make a gamble. Because, you know, Robin, she might turn out to be dangerous. If she does revive the ancient weapon and we don't have these, the world's done. But if the Straw Hats manage to get her back, and she really is an honorable person that won't use her knowledge for evil, if I burn these, then you guys got nothing. So, fresh fire! And then Franky just burns the Pluton blueprints, and then that's it. However, the theory goes, because Franky, being a master shipwright on top of being a cyborg, there might have been some way for him to store, like, a backup of these blueprints. Either him just being a really, like, maybe he has just an eidetic memory when it comes to blueprints, being a carpenter, so he could just maybe look through the blueprints, like, a couple of times, and he's like, oh, okay, that goes there. Alright, so I put the washers there, and the... Alright, that's where I install the motion for the feet so you can move side to side. Yeah, that's the blueprints for Pluton right there. Yeah, okay. So, you know, just being a carpenter, he memorized it. Or being a cyborg and having, like, we've seen him, like, well, this was, you know, after the time skip, you know, after his fight with Senor Pink, we see he has, like, a robotic eye, so I'm assuming he probably had that, you know, pre-time skip as well. He remodeled pretty much his entire body except his back, right? So if he's, like, the Terminator or something, he has, like a robotic eye that can be, like, you know, scanning, Pluton blueprints, and so he keeps, like, a, kind of like a backup of the blueprints in his brain at all times, right? I could see Franky having the technology to do that. It's One Piece after all. It makes sense. Franky is super, okay? So, he has a backup of the blueprints in some form, and then when he went to go build the Thousand Sunny, he incorporated the Pluton blueprints into the Sunny, therefore creating one of the ancient weapons that the Straw Hats have just had this entire time! Okay, now listen. I like where this theory is coming from, just because that would be a kind of a nutty twist at the end of it. Like, oh yeah, we've been looking for Pluton this entire time. Franky just steps out, takes off his glass, and he's just like, well, let me tell you something. Turns out, we've been riding on it this entire time. Franky flips a switch. The Sunny transforms into like 10 times its own size. Giant cannons, boom, 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 just shoot out, and just like, holy crap, the lion face like switches back to like a badass lion with like evil grin and like fangs and like armor on it, giant horns coming out, flames coming out of the lion, like, Franky, what did you do? I did super, Luffy, that's what I did, super! I see where you're coming from here, and that does sound cool, but I'm not a fan of this theory. I'm not a fan of it actually turning out to be the case in One Piece. For a couple of reasons. The first reason that comes to mind right away, these blueprints are the legacy of Tom. Alright, now that does not mean they're his legacy in the sense that Tom really wanted this to be built or something. No, the point is that they should never be used. That's the ideal world that, you know, Tom and the other shipwrights sought, was like the day where the ancient weapon is never revived, and therefore the day that these never have to be used. These are supposed to be a last-ditch, last measure, Plan Z kind of contingency. Alright? That's what these things are here to do. These aren't just to, you know, have to use whenever. So I think it would be a huge disrespect to Tom and the other shipwrights' memories of Water 7. Now, Franky did not know the other shipwrights. Franky did not personally know the guy that originally came up with the plans for Pluton. Maybe it was Joy Boy, maybe it was somebody else. Franky did not know that individual. But think of what happened when Franky entered Vegapunk's lab at Karakuri Island. Franky didn't know Vegapunk personally either. He had no idea who the guy even was. But he even had that line where he's like, you know, I'm a fellow engineer and a scientist as well, so I can kind of respect all the stuff that Vegapunk was doing in here. I don't want to mess with anything either. You know, Franky says, like, 5 seconds before he detonates the self-destruct protocol and blows the entire freaking lab sky high. You know, I want to respect Vegapunk's work. I really don't want to open fire and start blasting everything in here. I should probably be careful. Hey, what's this thing? Click. You know, so, you know, he did that. That was an accident. It's an honest mistake. Honestly, I blame Vegapunk for that. Who the hell just puts a... Okay, it's one thing to build a self-destruct button for your lab. Already that kind of doesn't make any sense. But why would you build a giant button of a freaking self-destruct mechanism right on your wall with no security precautions whatsoever? You could just be like working on something one day, accidentally trip on a nut or a bolt or something and back into the thing and just click. Like, oh, well, add like a barrier over it or something, Vegapunk. Jeez him. Okay, but anyway, alright, whatever. Point is, Franky, I think, being an engineer, would also respect other engineers and what they were doing and what they were all about, okay? Tom specifically being his own mentor. So I really don't think, even if Franky does have like an SD card of the Pluton blueprints stored in his brain, I don't think Franky would be like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna build the Straw Hats, the greatest ship ever. Hey, you know what I could use? This would be the perfect time to bust out the blueprints of this world-destroying super weapon. I'm gonna incorporate some of this into the Sunny. I mean, why not? Why not? Because it would be massively disrespectful to every shipwright, including your own master, that died. You know, you saw him get carried away by the sea train. You tried to stop the sea train yourself, you know, for that cause. So, yeah, probably not just a respectful thing to do in that particular instance. I've seen theories that people say, well, okay, think about all the weapons that the Sunny has. Think of the Gao Cannon, for example. That Gao Cannon is really devastating. Is it destroy an entire island in one shot devastating? No, it's not nearly that powerful, but it is still very devastating. It was able to basically wipe out, like, Duval's little base he had on the water. Duval had that little base kind of, like, made out... It's kind of like an oil rig he had kind of just out in the middle of the ocean, and the Gao Cannon was basically able to wreck that thing. But destroying an entire island, like obliterating all of, like, Alabasta with the Gao Cannon, that's not going to happen. That requires a way, way, way stronger weapon there, okay? But some people have been saying, well, okay, maybe he took inspiration from the Pluton blueprints and he incorporated that into the Sunny. So maybe, like, the Sunny isn't actually literally Pluton, but, you know, like, the Gao Cannon is a weapon you would find on Pluton, or the Coup de Burst is something that Pluton had that he incorporated. I still don't think that's the case, because here's the situation that we have here. It just doesn't make sense in terms of the timeline, okay? I think the Gao Cannon and the Coup de Burst, they're essentially the same kind of techniques Franky has in his cyborg body, utilizing, like, air pressure, just on a much larger scale. Franky uses bottles of cola in his cyborg body to charge up his coup de vent, which is basically just creating a bunch of air pressure, like a giant air cannon. It looks like a laser beam in the anime, because it's anime. Of course, they're gonna make it look like a laser beam. But the, like, canonical reason for what he's doing is that he's sucking in a bunch of air, and then using the power of the cola, which is basically like uranium in the One Piece, where it's like plutonium he's running on. He takes all that air pressure and just boom! Massive air cannon in one single attack, okay? Same basic premise for the Gao Cannon and the Coup de Burst, just on a much bigger scale. Instead of using bottles of cola, they have to use 3 barrels of cola, sucks in the air, and then boom! Gao Cannon, or boom! Coup de Burst, send the Sunny flying a kilometer away, alright? Same basic premise, just adapting to the ship, okay? So, here's the problem that I have here. Franky already modified his body into his cyborg form with his giant Popeye arms and the coup de vent and the coup de bout. He already had that body before he got his hands on these. Because what happened was Iceberg got the blueprints probably a few days, weeks, months before Tom died. Maybe Tom knew it was coming, and so he passed the blueprints on to Iceberg before, Spondum came to Water 7. Before all that crap even happened with the Battle Frankies, being turned on everybody, he passed off the blueprints to Iceberg, okay? Then I'm guessing Franky didn't know about this. Franky, if he did know about it, it was only like, oh, I know that Tom has really dangerous blueprints, but I'm assuming he didn't really look at the blueprints himself or didn't really know about them because they were kept so secret. I do not think Tom, was just like hanging out with Franky and Iceberg one night and Kokoro drinking. It's like, hey, you guys want to see something cool? Check this out. They're freaking blueprints to make an ancient weapon. I've been having them. I had them for, decades. Glug, glug, glug. I don't think there's like, hey guys, check them out. I think they were kept super, super secret. And, he was going to wait until Iceberg and Cutty Flam were old enough to accept the responsibility before passing them off, okay? So Iceberg had them. Franky gets hit by the sea train, ends up on Scrap Island, fixes himself up to be stronger, better, faster, the 6 billion berry man, and he fixes himself up, and then he starts to live his life as the ship dismantler, as like the thug of Water 7, gets the Franky family built up and everything like that, and then he decides to go and meet Iceberg, and then that point is when Iceberg passes off the blueprints to Franky, and he's like, Franky, listen, Tom had these. Before him, it was his master. Before his master, it was his grandmaster. Whatever. These are the blueprints to literally make a weapon that could destroy the world. And I know for a fact the world government's going to come to me to get these things. And I know you and I aren't on speaking terms really at this point. That's fine. Just take these, keep them somewhere safe, make sure they never end up in the wrong hands, okay? And then Franky, out of respect for their master, took them and put him in his body, okay? At that point, Franky had already been modified. He already had the coup de vent. He already had the Popeye arms and everything like that. So I don't think he used Pluton blueprints for himself or for the Sunny. Maybe the thought did cross his mind, but I really don't think they did. And also, another reason is, I think Franky wanted to make a ship on his own because he'd been dismantling ships for so long. I think Franky himself was like, okay, I'm gonna build a ship for the Straw Hats. He hadn't really decided on he wanted to be a member yet of the crew, but he's like, everything they've done for Water 7 and they helped everybody out, I am gonna build them my ship. And Franky had the designs for this ship for a while. He's like, I'm gonna make a ship that's unlike any other ship in the world. A super vessel. A vessel made out of atom wood. The same material that Tom used to make the Oro Jackson. Also, kind of the same, there's also a similar theory that the Oro Jackson is Pluton. Same basic premise. Tom had the Pluton blueprints, so he used those to make the Oro Jackson. If Tom knew that the world-destroying weapon had been revived, he's like, oh crap, Pluton is revived, and then Roger shows up and he's like, I want you to make me a ship, matey. Maybe then Tom would have been like, okay, the ancient weapon has been revived. I'm going to use these blueprints to make your ship. Maybe, but that wasn't the case because Pluton hasn't been revived for, since the Void Century for like 800 years or whatever like that. So, yeah, I don't think Franky would have done it because I think he doesn't want to rely on other people's blueprints or anything. And he basically designed and built the entirety of the Thousand Sunny by himself. I mean, he had people helping him out, obviously, with the heavy lifting and stuff. You can't, I guess you could build a ship by yourself. It's Franky we're talking about here, but he had still people helping him build everything as fast as he had to, right? But the blueprints and everything, that was all Franky, really, down to the figurehead. He thought it was going to be like, the Lion Gang Champion was like the original name of the Thousand Sunny or whatever, and down to all the docking ports and everything like that, the Gao cannon, that was all Franky. He designed that based on his own specs, so I don't think Franky, in that particular instant, like, I'm going to build a ship for the Straw Hats. It's going to be a ship made out of my own blood, oil, and tears. But I am going to use these blueprints that have been passed down for centuries, just as a springboard. I don't think that's the case. I think Franky wanted to do it himself. He wanted it to be his design, not someone else's. And, Franky is already a very energetic, very super individual. But he's not an idiot. I think he would understand the ramifications of bringing this thing into existence. Even part of it into existence. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Franky would look at the Pluton blueprints and be like, whoa, these are super blueprints. Check out these weapons. Man, if I built this thing, I could destroy the entire Red Line. Wow, I'm gonna do it. Super, I don't think that's the way Franky would look at this. I think any engineer worth their shit, Iceberg, Tom, Franky, anybody would actually look at these blueprints and look at them and be like, oh, oh, holy crap, this thing is dangerous. This thing is insanely dangerous. If someone got their hands on this, they could easily take over the entire world. Okay, I gotta make sure this never sees the light of day. You know, I gotta make sure this never happens. We never have to build this thing. And just the thought that the original still existed in the world somewhere probably would be enough to send shivers down Iceberg, Franky, and Tom's spines to know that this thing actually does exist. It was built somewhere, and it's just sleeping and waiting, okay? I think that's the way Franky would look at it. Imagine if that existed in our world. Imagine if, like, somebody discovered blueprints for some sort of alien craft. You know, we found the blueprints for a flying saucer or something that was beyond human technology, anything that humans could create, even more devastating than, like, an atomic or, like, hydrogen bomb or something. You know, we found the blueprints, and they were easy enough to understand that anybody could build them, that they had decent engineering knowledge, and it created a flying saucer that had a massive laser beam. And this laser beam could atomize anything. Like, you just target an island and it just atomizes the island. Like that. Hashtag yeehaw. Would you want those blueprints to exist, period? Would you want anyone to have those things? Like, no, that is way too damn dangerous, alright? Alright, so I think that's what Franky really saw there. That's the reason he burned them. He's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna burn these things, so that's like one less thing we have to worry about, and Robin's on our side, so everything will be cool. Also, another way, since we're talking about Robin, let's bring that up now. Robin knows where Pluton is. So this would be like if Robin went up to Luffy and was like, Luffy, I know where the ancient weapon Pluton is. Let's go and get it. And Luffy would be like, yeah, Robin, with that, I could take over the world and get the One Piece for sure. Kaizoku Oni, Orewanar, let's go get Pluton. Robin would never come up with that plan, and Luffy would probably not agree to that plan. All right, that's the level of that's the level we're talking about when someone says, "Oh yeah, Franky would use these to build the Thousand Sun." It would be the same thing as Robin being like, "Let's go find Pluton and use it to find the One Piece or get to Laugh Tale." It would be like a really like, wow, okay, that's a really dangerous thing to even be looking for that thing. Now, something that might come up is because Kaido and Big Mom's alliance are now going to be actively looking for the ancient weapons. That actually might come up in a different context where the Straw Hats might actually have to go find Pluton so to make sure Kaido and Big Mom maybe don't get their hands on it. It might be something like that where Robin is like, oh crap, they're looking for Pluton. And if Robin finds out that they're kind of getting on the trail to Pluton, if they found out where it was, any of the ancient weapons, Robin might convey that information to the Straw Hats and like, guys, Pluton is located here, and Kaido and Big Mom, they're kind of getting really close to where it is. We should probably go do something about that. Or, somebody brought up, and I completely forgot about this, but Caribou. Caribou overheard the whole conversation about Shirahoshi being Poseidon, being one of the ancient weapons. And Caribou was in the Udon prison, so he might have spilt the beans to Kaido. Kaido might know that Shirahoshi is Poseidon, and so the Straw Hats, you know, Robin, I don't think ever explained that to the Straw Hats. I don't think Robin ever told them that Shirahoshi was Poseidon. So, she might have to do that and be like, guys, we need to go save Shirahoshi because Kaido and Big Mom are going after her and she's one of the damn ancient weapons. Like, holy crap, really? I'm like, yeah, I didn't tell you guys because it's a really dangerous thing. I wanted to keep it as secret as possible, but, the heat is on. We need to get moving. So, that's the way I basically view this, essentially. It would have been kind of cool to see it as, like, a big twist in the story, but, yeah, I just don't see it. I personally view Pluton as, like, a next level kind of thing. Like, I used to view it as like a modern day battleship. Like, imagine like a modern day battleship that exists in our world, made of steel, no sails, propulsion, giant cannons, but it might resemble that, like the basic design, but it might be just huge, just gargantuan, like the size of an entire city, like the size of like Gil Tesoro's like casino boat that he had in Film Gold. Just imagine that, except it's a battleship with cannons and like nukes all over the damn deck, something like that, like an aircraft carrier. Maybe it could send out other like something like that. I'm picturing Pluton, just huge in size. The Sunny is really big. It's bigger than a Mary, but it's nowhere near as massive as I assume Pluton would be, but I could be wrong. Yeah. And also, one thing else I just wanted to bring up, because I found it funny, is that the blueprints of Pluton that Franky actually showed everybody, For a world-destroying super weapon, those blueprints don't really look that big, do they? They look about like the size of like, here's a instruction manual on how to build a shed or something. Like, I've seen Lego manuals on how to build like a Lego Millennium Falcon or something that were bigger than that damn manual. You know, like, how, man, is the writing like super tiny? Like, you need a magnifying glass to read everything? How do you fit like the island-destroying ancient weapon Pluton on like, how many pages is that? Like 100 or so tops, you know? Like, maybe they're meant to be read only by skilled shipwrights. So maybe like the superstructure of the boat is like just barely addressed. It's basically just like, first off, build the structure of a regular galleon. That's like page 1, and then like, okay, the shipwright would already have the skill to do that, and then here's all this extra stuff. Like, here's how to build the cannons for Pluton. But even then, it still seems like a kind of small instruction manual, right? All right, anyway, thanks for watching the video, everybody. Happy One Piece Day, 23 years. How many more years are there gonna be? I don't friggin' know, like 2, 3, 4, something like that, maybe in the ballpark. I don't know, but I guess we'll just have to sit back and see. Tekking101, signing out.